Well, the big issue about Benghazi, we haven't even heard it. In all the newspapers you've ever read, in all the TV shows you've ever watched, you haven't heard the big issue. The big issue is she killed 4 people in Benghazi. She and President Obama killed them. Now, you can say, how could that happen? Because they never sent the Marines to save them. They say, oh, we didn't know there wasn't enough time. They didn't know that. No real American would have heard that situation and not called the Marines. These people are not human. Only a non-human would say, oh, well, you know, nothing I can do. That's what she's guilty for. It would be manslaughter. It's not murder. She didn't shoot a bullet. But that issue hasn't come up. The next presidential candidate has to go after her for manslaughter. Because she's subhuman. Because they didn't want it in the newspapers a few weeks before the election. They didn't want 1,000 Marines and bombs blowing up all over the place. Marines dead, Libyans dead.
Okay, the next question. Yes.
Thank you very much. I just want to ask, what is the main security threat? What is the main reason for America in the issue of national security? Is this a religious, or is this economical, or is a political? We have to define that.
All of it.
It's all of it. What's the main?
No, they all go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other, as Ken said about us, but about the world. You can't have a good economy without freedom, and you can't keep freedom without a strong military, and you can't have a strong military without a lot of money to pay for it. So it all goes hand in hand. Now, the Middle East is not the United States of America. It's the Stone Age with cell phones, machine guns, and helicopters. So we've got to stop this idea that we're going to go over there. I hear all this talk about, well, we got to stay, we got to do this because women aren't treated well over there. Which is true. It's horrible what goes on. We're not going to change it. Not right away, right? Time may change it, but number one is what is good for America is what we ought to care about. And what is good to keep us and these people that he listed here as the West free. Israel, Europe, us, the Americas. If we abandon it, man, it's gone.
Thank you, sir. The reason of asking this question is what we come to know in this country, the Muslim organizations, as Ken mentioned about the Brotherhood, these are the organizations with a soft image, of Islam, and they pretend to be a peace promoter. They are actually, you know, putting our roots, you know, they are our founding principles of America, what we feel. And they have a special motivation. And we as a country, and we as Americans allow them to do this. And that harms us. And that's why we saw what is happening here.
Thank you. Okay, next question, Doc.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Abramowitz, but Congressman, I've heard from White House staffers that the last thing President Obama does on his way out of town will be to free the last prisoner at Guantanamo and close the place down once and for all time. Do you think the next president will have to reopen such a facility, and if so, do you think, say, siting it in Alaska and building some sort of polar prison would be a good idea?
Whoever proposed that's a genius. And by the way, I got a lot of grief for the polar prison. I got a lot of grief, and then about 3 years later, the House Democratic budget had in there to take, not in Alaska, but on Pacific Islands where there were old abandoned military bases, to turn them into federal prisons. So it wasn't that bad an idea.
Okay, next question, Nicholas.
Well, number one, I think Putin is the sharpest guy on the world scene. He measures, the line I love comes from Mao Zedong, which is proceed with bayonet. If you encounter mush, continue.
Exactly.
If you encounter steel, retreat. Obama is mush, okay? And all liberals are mush. In fact, I saw a great bumper sticker yesterday on a truck over here. It said, liberals, so open-minded, their brains fell out. So, number one, whoever I mean, I hate to think that we are at this point, but the personality, the knowledge, the wisdom of the President of the United States is transmitted instantly around the world. And a guy like Putin is a Cooney character. If he senses real strength inside the president, he's not going to be quite as aggressive. He'll still try stuff and see what he can get away with. They're doing it all the time. Buzzing our aircraft carrier off of Japan the other day. Flying over Alaska all the time. Seeing what they can get away with. And with Obama, they get away with a lot.
Same thing happened with the Georgia war. He invaded Georgia and
Totally.
waited what will be.
Yep.
What will be the
And he's making moves on Estonia. He's kidnapping people in Estonia, seeing if we're willing, NATO country, will we go, blah, blah.
Ken, do you want to add?
Well, we have problems with Russia, but they're minor compared with the problems we have with political Islam. Number one. Number two, I don't like to see Christian countries fighting with Christian countries. I don't like Jews fighting with Christians, Christians fighting with Jews, or any of us fighting with Hindus. We all have to work together. So I don't regard Russia as a mortal enemy of America. Putin's a rational person. He has his own self-interest or perception of self-interest. He's not a mortal enemy. He hasn't said, I'm going to kill everyone in America. Iran has said, we're going to kill everyone in America. Death to America. They're building ICBMs with our name on it, with nukes, with our money, to blow up America within 10 years. Iran's an existential risk to America. The other three terror organizations, existential risk to America. So I want to focus. You can't fight, how many wars can you fight at the same time? I want to focus on our existential enemies.
And by the way, on the line that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, Putin is our enemy, personally, him against us, not Russia, I agree with Ken. But he's under worse threat from Islamic terrorism. He's got it in his country, Chechnya. This is one of the reasons he's now wants to clean out ISIS, because he's worried they're coming in. So he is a bit of an ally in that fight, actually.
He-Man.
Question, if you can't hear it back there, this gentleman says what worries him the most is the national debt, which I think is actually 21 trillion or something. It's the second largest item in our budget is the interest payment on the national debt. It's humongous, this thing. Which candidate, he asked, can do the most to address this issue? Interesting. In the debates, I haven't heard this mentioned once. I haven't heard it asked once. It was one of the main things that the Tea Party revolt in 2010 was very big on this. Kasich, when he started running in New Hampshire last spring, everywhere he went, he took the debt clock with him, and he'd have it up on the stage right next to him. But I never hear them talk about it. Let me say this, one thing. 1981, I'm 27 years old. I'm sitting on the floor of Congress with another freshman when Trent Lott, the minority whip, comes over to the two of us. He says, fellas, the president needs a favor from you all. He wants you to vote to extend the debt ceiling. I turned to Congressman Lott and I said, what's the debt ceiling? I didn't even know what it was. He said, well, he needs it, and I think we raised it to 1 trillion, I think, in 1981. So that is 35 years ago. We've gone from 1 trillion to 20 trillion. And it's an upward thing. We're spending more and more and more. So the question really has to be, what is the long-range thing? And the long-range thing, in my view, is adopt a 35-year plan to pay it down bit by bit, like we do on mortgages and loans. You can't do it all in one shot. 30 years, 35 years, and have a plan where some money every year is spent on beginning to reduce this thing. It's like turning around an aircraft carrier. You cannot turn that thing on a dime. It has to take a big sweeping turn. And I think the country would go for this. Some sort of plan to begin to pay a little bit every year, get conscious of it, and stick with it.
Where's candidate?
None of them were talking about it, so I don't know. You know, I'm not keen on any of them on that issue.
Yes.
No, I don't think it'll take down Hillary. I don't think, first of all, Hillary has to get nominated, right? She will be nominated unless there's an indictment. And will there be an indictment? I don't know. No, you know,
Bring her right to the altar.
Ed Klein, well, you never know. There's a lot of issues here where Obama ran against Hillary, hates Bill Clinton with a passion, doesn't hate Hillary, hates Bill. What the Obama mindset is, they don't want to turn the Democratic Party and the federal government over to the Clintons, because all the cronies of Obama that have cushy government jobs everywhere will get canned immediately and replaced by Clinton people. So they really don't want Hillary. So, if enough evidence is arrived at on this email thing, and the leaking is that there is a lot of evidence, but who knows, we're going to get to the day where there right now is an 8-person team in the Justice Department working on top of the FBI running this investigation. They got to decide two things. Were federal laws broken? And if so, do we have enough to get a conviction? If the answers are yes to both, they kick it upstairs and it goes to the White House. Do you want to bring a charge against the Democratic frontrunner, certain nominee? Because if they did bring a charge, she's finished the day the charges are filed. Her campaign's over, done. Everybody knows that. If Obama doesn't allow the charges to be filed, the FBI will leak it out. We have the goods on her. There'll be incredible unhappiness coming out. People will seize on it. And Obama has to ask himself, do I want to go out my last 8 months as president when I defeated the Clintons? I'm now going to go out of office with the charge that I'm covering up for the Clintons. He's got to ask himself. And if the evidence is really strong, he can say, hey, I have no choice here. The thing is so bad, she broke the law, she endangered the security of the country, my hands are clean, whoop, off she goes, and then they get Biden or someone to run. And don't rule it out.
Okay, we have time for 2 more questions. Bill?
Very quick question. Any plans to run
And then
against
Phil,
Steve
you're
Israel?
next.
No, I'm not running for any Congress thing ever again.
Jack Martin.
Love Jack Martin. You know what worries me about Jack Martin? I love Jack Martin. He's a great senator, great guy. I hope he wins the House seat, but now we've got to keep his Senate seat because we may lose Skelos' seat.
Yeah.
We could lose the state Senate. That worries me. Okay. Great question. I never hear this asked on the media. Here's the question. What are the chances that if Trump wins the nomination, that he will pick good advisors to advise him, good people, if he even were to be president, to be advising him, and a vice president, I presume, that is good. And I have to say, I really like, Trump is an amazing phenomenon. It's a fantastic thing. He is better than all these candidates who've been professionals all their lives. He's come in here at 67 years old, wiping the floor with them. He has no advisors. He has no economic team, no national security team, no Ken advising him, although maybe you've spoken to him.
I'm trying.
Yeah. And it's no offense to you, but I think this, and this is my criticism of the Donald, which is he doesn't want to share the stage with anybody. Doesn't want anybody getting any of the limelight. He's loving it. If you notice on every rally, he's up there on the stage all by himself. He doesn't have anybody else up there. Very much like Obama in 2008. We got big egos operating here. But you cannot run the country without smart people like our wonderful guest tonight. We must have a lot of them with experience, life experience, knowledge, brains, advising. Every good president has it. And he's got to have, or she's eventually got to have enough brains to know what to listen to. And this is a problem. I mean, I look at Trump, I wonder if he might be the first president who doesn't have a running mate.
Ken, you get the last word.
Well, let me just mention a couple things. A traditional Republican debate used to attract about 5 million people, I'm told, and when Trump shows up, it's 25 million. So he's added electricity to the party. Party's a little stodgy and needed that electricity. We wish the electricity were a little more polished for the reasons I just mentioned, and everything you said, I agree, and it's a problem. But the country needs an un-Obama. The next president has to repeal every single thing President Obama did. Every regulation, every executive order, every piece of legislation. Then we need an un-Obama for 8 years to dig us out of the hole that we're in. Well, Trump is not the only one who can be. Ted Cruz could be an un-Obama too. And I think it's basically between the two of them. When I gave my talks to 12 of the presidential candidates, the candidates I had the most rapport with and were the best listeners were Cruz, Rubio, Mike Huckabee, who's a wonderful guy. I wish he had a little more percentage in the polls. And Scott Walker didn't last. But those were the, I'd say, the best brains or best learning potential presidents that I've seen.
Did you speak with Trump?
Trump, I email his office like every 3 weeks. I finally, after like 6 emails, just got an email a few days ago from his assistant saying, I know you've been very persistent and I know you want to see him. His schedule's very busy. I'll see what I can do. And I wrote back, I'll meet him anywhere, any place. Just give me 15 minutes and I'll show up. So I'm persistent enough. I'll find him. And because I'm trying to help all Republican candidates, because they all need a booster shot of national security. Not necessarily used in the campaign, but they have to have it in their brains, the enormity of the challenges facing them.
Thank you very much. Let's give our guest speakers a big hand.